So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZWGames5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below. What's up YouTube, Dad here from Citadel Games, bringing you a competitive Machina Orcust deck. Now Machina's was a brand new structure deck that we received just before Eternity Code, and it actually gives you some nice machine support for an Orcus deck. It gives them another powerhouse play and another form of interruption as well. Not to be said, but also in Eternity Code, Orcus did receive a brand new card in Girsu, the Orcus Knight, and this kind of, again, replaced the loss of Harp Horror because it gave you that normal summon monster or that one level 4 monster that would help extend your plays further on, and I'll show you exactly why he's so good when we get to him. Before we get started, please smash the like button, hit the notification bell and subscribe so you do not miss out on anything. With that said and done, let me take you through the competitive Orcus profile. Now Orcus, what I mean by competitive is there's a lot of decks that are taking Adamantipator's and Eldritch to the wire. So at the most recent weekly for PPG, Burning Abyss won it. The LLG, I believe it was, Sky Strikers won that. In the previous weekend championship for PPG, Salamangreats took all the way to second place. There are decks that can combat the meta, and what I'm trying to say is don't sleep on Orcus. They're actually a really, really good deck, and their most expensive card right now is Orcus Girsu, which is dropping in price, so he's worth picking up. That being said, you do play triple Girsu, the Orcus Knight. Now he is so important because the way he works is if he is normal or special summoned, you send one Orcus or World Legacy card. So that sets up your 1 plays, your Nightmare plays, your Symbol Skeleton plays should you need it, and your Brass Bombard plays as well. If he's the only card, if there are 2 or more cards in the same column, he becomes a tuner. Very irrelevant unless you want to hype the Needle Fiber plays. I have specifically taken out Jet Synchron from this deck. As good as it is, I feel that it could be hit on the banish. So I wanted to make this deck consistent post-banish as well so that it wouldn't change massively. His other effect is if he's the only card you control, you then get to special summon a token to your opponent's side of the field and a token to your side of the field. It's actually really, really good. So it allows you to go instant Galatea. It also allows you to go instant Lib plays as well. And Lib can then, if you combo off the right cards in hand, can end your board with an IP plus a Galatea plus a Crescendo or a Babel and a Citadel Raigeki. So crazy, crazy consistent plays that way. We've then got triple Orcus Nightmare. Now, she is a bit of a brick, but she is very, very important. If Harp Horror was back, even at 1, you'd probably take her down 1. But she's so important that she gets all of your combos going in place of Harp Horror. Sending her to banish, to send another card as well, boosting up one of your cards. It gives you a lot more versatile plays to move around. She is a level 7, but she is a dark as well. So she's easy lore fodder, she's easy discard fodder, and it's a really good engine card to keep you moving. Double Orcus Symbol Skeleton. 2 is more than enough. 3 can get really, really cloggy because you really don't want him in the hand. You ideally want to be sending him to the graveyard, getting him to the graveyard. So he is another easy lore fodder target and an easy discard fodder target as well. But you get him to the graveyard. It's a quick effect under Babel. Banish him, special summon an Orcus from the graveyard. So that lets you bring back your Dingrisu, it lets you bring back your Orcus Knight, it also lets you bring back your Galatea. And then you make Ding, and Ding attaches him, puts him back in the graveyard, and just loop him round and round and round. The best thing about all the Nightmares is, because they're dark and they're lore targets, Galatea can spin them back. And Galatea spins back as cost, so even if you don't have, not as cost, sorry, it spins back even if you don't have a card to set. Because it's a you can set. So it's like, cool, I'm just going to recur my resources that I've just used off of a lore. I'm not really losing anything. We've then got double World Legacy World Wand. Again, just gets everything going. When it's in the graveyard, you banish it, especially on one of your banished Orcus. It just allows you to extend further. And then I play the double Brass Bombard. Not a lot of people play this, but it's just one of them cards that if you summon it off of 1 for 1, you've got easy discard fodder. It is a tuner, so if you did want to make Halifrabax plays with the Jet Synchron, you could do. It also allows you to unbrick your hand. So if you've opened up a Nightmare, if you've opened up a Girsu, because his effect is normal or specialed, you can banish him, banish Brass Bombard, and get the extension plays. So like I said in the example at the start, if you open up Girsu and any other Nightmare, you can banish, send Brass Bombard, banish it, special summon out any of the other Nightmare that you have in hand. Your Gearsu, because it was your first normal summon, would give you a token if you wanted it. You can then link climb higher. You've got the additional Orcus on board that you can then use as higher link climb fodder, or of course as additional fodder to get you into like your scrap cycle combos, depending on what you have for your normal or special summon play. That being said as well, you've got, if you were to open up Scrap Recycler plus your Gearsu, you can normal summon your Recycler. Recycler can then send Bombard. You can banish Bombard to special summon down your Gearsu. Your Gearsu can then send a Nightmare. And then you've got the full-on scrap combo plays that helps you link climb higher. And then if you add in the Mechana engine to that, you just get another level of extension, protection, and power. Speaking of the scrap engine, you do play triple Recycler and the one Golem. I actually got rid of my Golem because I was like, oh cool, it's getting a super reprint, I don't need to worry about it. Scrap might arguably be on the ban list if Konami are playing as a ban list late, but I would like to hope that I doubt it, because it's just had a reprint in the Mechana structure deck as well, and the Golem as a super. So it'd be interesting to see, but it would only be in the fact that Konami had looked at the list, preset their ban list of hitting Scrap Recycler, Invoked and Shadow cards, and then release it. But if they scrap the idea because of the lockdown, this is going to stay at 3. Then I'll leave the Mechana engine for last, because this is the rest of them are quite straightforward. So you've got the one Armageddon Knight, the one Grepher, and the one Orochi. Orochi is incredibly powerful. Like, just being able to link up into a Boral Sword or a game-winning card, and then going into Orochi, pretty much wins you the game outright. It's incredibly powerful. You can drop it during your opponent's end phase, and then you also, because your extra deck is a little bit loose, you can then banish to pop cards, and it's a nice way of baiting out the gates, surviving OTKs, and really, really causing your opponent issues. Grepher, again, is really, really good because you ditch all of your high-level darks, so that can ditch an Orochi from hand, and then you use your Orochi effect in graveyard anyway, so you're not actually losing anything. It can then ditch the Nightmare in hand or the Wand in hand as well, which can be bricks. You move them further forward, and then on top of that, he then gets to send another dark. So you send a Wand from your hand, you then get to send a Orcus Nightmare from your deck. So it's like, cool, I've now got even more consistency that is going to work on each other, because then I banish Nightmare, as long as I'm locked into darks at that point, banish Nightmare, Nightmare gives one of my cards a boost, I can then banish one to special summon the Nightmare, I can then use it as link fodder with my Grepher to go into my Galatea, and it just lets your plays evolve. Armageddon Knight, obviously it's at 1, it is just a dark dumper. So it does exactly what Gearsu does. Gearsu is of course better, but the fact that this can send any dark monster just allows you to set up the Orochi plays as well. Then onto the Mechana engine. So for the Mechana engine, I've got double Metal Cruncher. Now the reason this is so good is if it is normal summoned, and we do play 3 normal summons in the deck. So you've got your Gearsu, but that can balance between the special summon. You've got your Mechana Cruncher, and then you have your Scrap Recycler. Now, Scrap Recycler is your main point of call. It's the one you want to go to because it gets everything started. But the Metal Cruncher, when it is normal or special, when it is normal summoned, or special summoned, you reveal 3 Earth Machine monsters from your deck. So that's going to be your 3 Scrap Recyclers. Your opponent randomly adds one, so you just get to guarantee to get yourself a Scrap Recycler for the next turn. So in your defensive plays, you set up your board. You can set up your board however you see fit, with like IP plus Galatea plus Crescendo, or Babel and Ding, and then you survive that play. You've got your Scrap Recycler ready to go. You normal summon that, and you've got full combo off of the Scrap Recycler plus what you already built up and protected from the first turn. Absolutely crazy good card. Very, very good in kind of getting the utility moving in the deck. You've then got the one Citadel. Citadel is just an insane boss monster. So it can't be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned by a card effect, and there are a couple of card effects in the deck that you play to do so. If a face-up Earth Machine monster you control except himself is destroyed by battle or card effect while it is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. So if they were to destroy your Golem, if they were to destroy your Metal Cruncher, if they were to destroy your Recycler, he can then summon himself. If he's not going to go for that route, you can target one machine, quick effect, on one machine monster you control, destroy that machine monster, and all monsters your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to that monster. So if he destroys himself, you're nuking the board of anything that is 3k or less. So let's say, for example, they normal summon, or not normal summon, they special summon out Savage Dragon, and they go, Savage Dragon's effect to attach from the grave. You go, okay, cool, change Citadel. Citadel is currently 3k. your Savage is 3k, Regeki the board, both of those get destroyed. That's it, you're not going to get your negation board play. And then if they've got any other monsters than that, they all get wiped out. Now it doesn't necessarily, because it's a machine one, it doesn't necessarily need to be him that's Regeki. So if you want to keep your boss monster on board and all your opponent's doing is pumping out monsters that are less than 3k, like 2ks or less, you can get rid of your Dings, you can get rid of your Galateas, anything like that, and then that does the job just as much, and then you're still leaving yourself with a 3k beater. I then play the one Mechana Possess Storage. Now, other people are actually playing, or some people do play the Irradiator. I took this out this morning before making this profile for the Possess Storage. I really, really like him, and I think a lot of people underrate him. He's a dark, so easy lore fodder if you don't want it. But if it is normal or special summoned, you target a Mechana monster in your graveyard except himself and special summon it in defense, but it cannot activate its effects this turn. You can target one other Mechana monster you control and one spell your opponent controls and return them to the hand. Now, the second effect, less relevant, but it can happen. The first effect actually allows you to extend your plays further. So if this is in your hand and you discard it, it is a machine dart that can be spun back into the deck as well if you banish it off of the lore. But the idea is, ideally, you're going to special summon this, or if you're able to go off without normal summoning, amazing. Normal summon this after discarding your Citadel in the later grind games, bring back Citadel, sit on him as a 2500 defender, and if you don't OTK or you don't use it as link climb fodder, you're going to be able to Regeki your opponent during their turn. It's not the most ideal, but you kind of need to play 4 Mechanas just to make the next card, which is your triple Mechana Redeployment, as consistent as possible. So the way this card works is you discard 1 card, set up Orcus plays, nice. Add 2 Mechana monsters with different names from each other from your deck to your hand. So ideally what you're going to do is you're going to search out your Metal Cruncher and your Citadel. Or if you have discard fodder and haven't used your normal summon, you go for Possess Storage and you go for your Cruncher. The second effect is you discard 1 Mechana card to add 2 Mechana cards. So the idea is you would discard any Mechana card. So if you open up a double Redeployment, if you open up double Metal Cruncher or anything like that, you discard one of those, put them to the graveyard, and then you get 2 Mechanas. So you'd get another Redeployment for the next turn. Very, very rare you're going to resolve that effect. It's more so for the first one. You set up your graveyard, you deck thin, you also get 2 more cards in your hand, which is a Metal Cruncher that can search you into your Scrap Recycler, or you've got your Citadel plays that you're going to use as discard fodder to then get back and have a Regeki on board as well. Then for the draw engine of the deck, triple Orchestrate Return. Absolutely love this card. You send 1 Orcust or World Legacy monster from your hand or field to the graveyard, draw 2 cards. So it replaces itself, and the card you're putting from your hand, so even if you put it into the hand to the graveyard, 9 times out of 10 can actually help you extend. Like if you put a Blast Bombard in there and you draw into another Orcus, great. If you put a Nightmare in there, great. You put the Wand in there, great. You put Orcus Symbol Skeleton in there, great. The only one that is bad to put in there is the Orcus Knight, unless you have a way to bring him back. And if you have a way to bring him back, happy days. You're not negging at all. Triple Law of Darkness. I told you how busted this card is in here. The fact you just go, cool, banish one of my darks, make Galatea, spin them back in. I haven't lost anything. If you found a way to recycle a lore, you could just keep on pumping a lore out. Triple Call by the Grave. Now this is one of the few decks that, yes, it's used in a defensive manner, because if someone tries to ash you, you're going to activate it. But what I mean by it is used more as an offensive manner in this deck is this deck can play through getting ashed. Like the one thing they suck at is if their recycler gets ashed, they're kind of like, yeah, I've got no form of extension, I'm probably going to, like, I'm really on the back foot. So that's what you want to defend with this. But 9 times out of 10, you'll actually see a lot of Orcus players just set this and pass. And it's like, not on its own, of course. But couple in this with a Galatea with a Crescendo, a Call by the Grave, plus a Citadel Regeki, plus an IP Masquerena that can go into a Zero-Boros or a Unicorn, and a Ding to bring back from the graveyard if you wanted to. The variations and what makes this deck so good and powerful is the way that it plays during your opponent's turn. It does more during your opponent's turn, mainly, in theory, than it does during your turn. You still even have Gizmet Orochi that can come back to defend, it can come back to trigger off Zero-Boros. There's just a lot of play that this deck can do. And then we play a good chunk of one-offs for the spell. So you've got the 1 Babel, recycle it, that's all you really need. The 1/1 for 1, just for Brass Bombard, you can probably take this out, but I just kind of like the idea of going, cool, discard Citadel, bring out Brass Bombard, link into Link Karibo, banish it, bring down Gearsu. Gearsu can then link up with the Link Karibo, go into Galatea, and then if I've got, or even Lib if you've got a World Legacy in the graveyard, activate, bring back Citadel, go into Galatea, and you just move your place further forward that way. The one urgent schedule, this is awesome. Love it, love it, love it. So you special on 1 at level 4 or lower and 1 level 5 or higher Earth machine. So you bring out your scrap recycler, you bring out your Citadel. And all you're really doing is you're just using it as link fodder. Incredibly easy Earth link fodder. But you just go, alright, I'm going second, I've opened up my urgent schedule, my opponent controls more monsters than I do, activate, bring those 2 out, link them straight into Wyvern, off I go. On top of that, this can be a very, very good defensive card because you can set this, if your opponent finds a way to clear your board but not your back row, you flip this as a quick play, special summon out 2 walls, and then if you've got a Gizmek in graveyard, you bring out a 3rd wall. It just gives you a bit of survivability as well. The 1 Rotor for your Greffa and your Armageddon Knight, the 1 Foolish Burial for pretty much 99% of your deck. You can send Citadel if you've got a way to bring it back, and it's like, cool, I've just got a 3k beater back for nothing. The one thing you could arguably put in this deck that I haven't got right now, because you've got the World Legacy Succession that you set off of Ib, is a Monster Reborn. But the Orcus engine themselves revive themselves enough. The only reason that you'd be putting a Monster Reborn in it is to make the Citadels more consistent. But it's kind of like, there's no point in doing that because the whole combo is you go into Lib, and then Lib will set you the World Legacy Succession, and the World Legacy Succession then brings back the Citadel. So that's where that kind of combo interacts. And then finally Crescendo, love the artwork, would have loved to have seen this as a secret, but absolutely awesome card, just to be able to neg any spell trap or monster effect and then banish it. And then if that wasn't enough, it also has the graveyard effect to search you out another piece the next turn. So that's it for the main deck. Very, very powerful deck. I personally love it. I think it's so good at playing. It's probably one of the best decks playing through or interrupting your opponent during their turn. I mean, not here's 8 negates, let's go. It's a, okay, Dark Roar no more isn't that effective against me because I can start using my graveyards on my back row. Nibiru can hurt me, but if I've got my spells and traps set up, I can go with my skeleton if it's dropped to the wrong time. Golden Lords and Eldritch, yes, they can be quite powerful against me. However, again, I can play through their back row. I can interrupt them because I'm not interrupting them with cards I already have on the board. I'm interrupting them with cards that are coming from my monster zone, my spell and trap zone, and my graveyard. And they're having to kind of deal with that. And then if you couple in like Nibiru's, Imperms, Ashes, anything like that, they're then having to deal with my hand. So they're dealing with interruptions coming from my entire possession apart from the deck. Whereas in Adamant Spectres and Elder Lich, the 9 out of 10, the interruptions are coming just from their monster zones. So if you find a way to shut off the monster zones, that's it. They're pretty much going to fall apart. In Elder Lich, if you shut off their spell and trap zones, they're pretty much going to fall apart. Whereas with Orcus, there's no real direct route to say, okay, I've shut off your graveyard. And you go, that's fine. I still have my monsters and I still have my back row. I've shut off your monster zone. Okay, I've still got my graveyard and my spell and trap zone. And you kind of see where I'm coming with this one. Now let's move on to the extra deck. Of course, we played double Dingrisu, the Orcus of Evening Star. Awesome card, one of the best rank 8s in the game. The protection effect is awesome, the summon effect to send is awesome, and then the summon effect to attach again is awesome for this deck. Absolutely love it, which is why you play them at 2. Triple Galatea, you can play this at 2 if you want, but I think it's so important, it's so integral that you kind of don't want to be focusing on recycling your Galateas from the graveyard. You want to be like, it's fine, I've got 3, I can just play through her and then recycle her when I absolutely need to. The one Longrisu, I really, really like this. I think a lot of people forget about his shuffle 2 back in and send. And I think when you're abusing a lore in this deck, and when you're abusing kind of just the banish effects of your Orcus monsters, being able to go shuffle 2 back in to send a card is great. And then what you've got to remember about both Galatea and Longrisu is when they're linked, this one can't be destroyed by card effect, this one can't be destroyed by battle. So the idea is, through the combo, you activate the World Legacy Succession and put Citadel to a zone that Galatea is pointing to. So that means your opponent can't just go normal summon a 1900 beater, kill Galatea, now go off in the main phase 2 because I haven't got to worry about Crescendo. You go, okay, cool. My Crescendo play is safe and secure. I can then negate something with Crescendo when it gets dangerous. I can protect her from battle. I've got the Citadel that if I want to, I can get rid of Galatea or himself to Regeki any dangerous threats that are coming my way as well. Then for the generic kind of lower level links, we've got the 1 Link Rebo coming off of your Brass Bombard. Now, it's just an easy way that, worst case scenario, normal summon Brass Bombard, turn it into Link Rebo, banish, bring out, unbrick your hand, off you go. But also in the Jet Synchron combo, if you did play it and put it in here, this is one card that you would definitely be having. We've then got, of course, the Scrap Wyvern. We all know why this is so good, just working off of your scrap combos. The 1 Union Carrier, this is more for the side deck because you can play the Buster Dragon Sword, but I think that again could possibly be getting hit on the ban list. So the reason this is kind of good is it is a machine. It can equip some of your Orcus from the deck just to kind of unbrick you a little bit as well. And it can also equip your Citadel from the deck as well, and then that puts it and sets it up in the graveyard. We then got Lib, the World Keyblade Master. Again, card awesome. Absolutely love it. So that's where the Gearsu combo comes in. Is you normally summon Gearsu, send the wand, use Gearsu and the token to make Lib. Lib can then set the World Legacy. You then activate the World Legacy to bring back the wand, or you've got the wand that can then banish, or you bring back the Gearsu, you go into Galatea, and it just allows you to set up your graveyard and extend your plays further and kind of move it that way as well. We've then got, of course, the 1 Cerberus. Now this can easily be a Phoenix, so entirely up to you on that one, with an IP Masquerena. But the reason I went with Cerberus is because we're in Master of 5, so many decks are going, okay, I'm just going to put a special summon monster in the main monster zones because I can. And that can be really, really damaging. So being able to make a Cerberus just to discard and pop, and the discard is never bad for an Orcus player because you're either putting bricks in there or you're putting cards that you want to be in your graveyard to banish and use their effects off of. So it works really, really nicely. Yeah, and Cerberus is pretty awesome, and alongside that can come into Unicorn as well. So Unicorn discard, spin any cards. Any card that's like, I need to be destroyed to get my effect off, you go, I've got a Unicorn for that. And then for the Link 4s, now there's two types of Orcus players. You either go for the Borosword or you go for the Topologic Zeroboros, and I prefer the Topologic Zeroboros. So we've got the Appaloosa of Bow Goddess as your defensive Link 4 that comes off of IP Masquerena, and as long as you don't lock yourself into darks, you're all good. But then your offensive play is Zeroboros, and the best thing about Zeroboros is because it requires 2 FM monsters, you can use it with IP, not saying you absolutely have to, but use it with IP and 2 more monsters, or just Galatea. Make Zeroboros, then if you've got an Orochi in grave or hand, it gives you the ability to go, Orochi, trigger this, clear your opponent's entire board. Alright, yeah, you banish your stuff, doesn't really matter. You clear your opponent's entire board when they need it most. So if they go into battle phase, that's the phase that they can't do anything with. That's the phase that as soon as they're locked in that battle phase, if you clear their board, they've lost their entire turn. So you go, okay, trigger Zeroboros, either with Skeleton or with Gizmek as well. Clear the entire board and they go, yeah, cool, main phase 2, set 1, pass. And you go, excellent, draw, standby phase, Zeroboros comes back. Zeroboros has banished, I don't know, like 10 cards. He's now gaining 200 for each 10. He's now 5k beta. Activate Orochi because Orochi was in grave or Orochi didn't get banished or I've spun Orochi back or anything like that. Bring Orochi on, game. So you bring Orochi on. Orochi will then banish 8 more. Zeroboros will then gain 200 for those 8 that you've banished as well. And you're just going, yeah, that's game just from Zeroboros. Absolutely insane. I love it. Borosword is a little bit more consistent because it doesn't rely on all the banishing. But I just think Zeroboros is such a much nicer game-winning card than Borosword, in my opinion. So that can easily be changed for a Borosword if you wish. So don't worry about that. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for the Orcus Mechana deck profile. A couple of little different texts in there. And just kind of explaining why the Mechanas are a good kind of match for this deck. Yes, it does technically put like 7 more bricks in there if they can't extend. But like I said, it just gives them another form of interruption to play through your opponent's turn. And if you have a way of bringing back the cards, if you have a way of spinning the cards back, you're giving yourself beaters to win the game in a quick OTK succession. You're also giving yourself some very, very powerful control cards that again win you the game as well. Anyway, I hope you liked this, hope you enjoyed it, I hope it gave you a couple of ideas on your own Orcus build, and I hope it kind of let you see that Orcus, even if you don't plan to play them, are still a very, very dangerous threat, and some of the plays that they might be going for as well. For now, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Till next time, guys, as always, happy dueling.